Cheers, everybody. Welcome back. This is Good Bets, Good Times. I'm your host, Nate, with NT Sports, and pretty excited about today's episode. We are continuing on with our college football preview shows. Next up, the Big Ten Conference. And as you can imagine, if you haven't listened to the show before, you know I am located in Central Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, home of the world champion Ohio State Buckeyes. So not going to let my biases show during this episode. Don't worry. When it comes to betting, there's no allegiances, all right? I'll be fair. I'll be honest. But I may bring up multiple times, the Buckeyes are the reigning defending national champions. But that's where we'll draw the line there. We'll let it go. But yeah, if you didn't listen last week, past 2 episodes. So 2 weeks ago, we did the ACC. Basically, what we do is we look at the top contenders for the conference championship, talk about some odds, current odds, talk about some win total bets that we do like, that we're eyeing up. If any numbers catch our eye so far for odds to make the playoff, to miss the playoff, or to win the conference championship, or to win the national title. We'll talk about those. Got the SEC up next week, which will finish up our Power 4 conference preview before we dive into the group of 5 in the independents. And then we are obviously a NFL podcast too. So we will get back into, I know we had a few shows early on around NFL, and we'll get back into conference previews and divisional previews here in the next couple of weeks. Leading up to start of training camp, we do officially have a football game this month, July 31st. We got the Lions-Chargers in the Hall of Fame game, so we're on the home stretch here. Training camp starts here in a few weeks for some teams, end of July. First preseason game, and hey, to hold us over in the meantime, we do have the new season of Netflix's Quarterback featuring Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, and Jared Goff. So haven't watched it yet, but I guarantee I will, and we'll talk about it. Gives us something to do. Hey, a little taste of football leading up until the preseason, so we'll take what we can get until Hard Knocks kicks off as well here in a few weeks. But other than that, we usually kick off with what's going on in the sporting news the past week. Not a whole lot. Hockey's over, basketball's over. Got summer baseball going on. So depending how into baseball betting you are, I know personally not a baseball bettor, but I know if you really grind out the season, it can be a very profitable sport for a lot of people. But I prefer to focus on football season, getting started early. We talked a lot about the hot dog eating contest last week. Talked a lot about Joey Chestnut, and hey, he did it again. Taking a year off, came back, put down 70.5 dogs. To be honest, I didn't know they counted half dogs. I don't know if that's just he ate the dog and not the bun, vice versa. Don't know where the half comes in, but hey, 70.5. Over under was 71.5, so he hit the under. Over came just short. Personally, didn't bet it. Not an option in the great state of Ohio. Apparently, they don't like folks betting on food eating contests, so couldn't get down on it. But probably just for the sake of fun, would have taken the over there. But Chestnut wins his 17th mustard belt in the July 4th Nathan's hot dog eating contest. And folks, I think it's time we start, if we haven't already, talking about Joey Chestnut as one of the top 5 athletes of all time, right? I mean, I was thinking about this. I saw a lot of posts recently on social media about who are the GOAT athletes, who are the greatest athletes of all time. How do you not put Joey Chestnut in that category? Just for fun, just off the top of my head, thinking through, who are my top 5 GOAT athletes? Who are the greatest of all time across all sports? Number 5, I got Michael Phelps, most dominant Olympic athlete of all time. Number 4, we got Tiger Woods. Nobody was better at the game of golf than Tiger Woods in his prime. Just purely dominant. Number 3, I got Joey Chestnut, 17 titles. That's just hot dogs. Don't even get into the other foods that he's conquered over his illustrious career. 2, we got Jordan, and 1, we got Tom Brady. So Chestnut's at 3 right now, but he's not done. He has no plans of retiring. As long as he can put down dogs, he's going to be in this contest every single year. Where's it going to end? 20, 25? I think the second place contestant in the hot dog contest was around 48 hot dogs. Going to hit 50. So I mean, he's got some room. Even as he gets older, he may win some contests in the 60s, but until someone steps up, gives him a little bit of a challenge. We'll see what happens, but he could be number 1. He could be number 1 by the time he hangs up the. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's it. Other than that, we're grinding football, prepping for the season, going through each one of these conferences, looking at each one of these teams, just trying to get a feel for where everyone is gonna land this season, heading into the season, not only for futures bets, but also just to prep for betting the regular season. Looking through schedules, finding spots that we're already eyeing up for the season that we may want to write down, and depending on what the lines are, may jump on. So there's a lot to look at. College football is tough, though. In this portal era, it's, a lot of guys coming in and out of these programs, and you never really know for sure how these guys are going to gel and fit in on these teams. So I think in this era, it's more difficult than ever to truly project out how these teams are going to perform. I think the elite of the elite, I think we can have a pretty good gauge, but some of these middle tier teams, man, these teams sitting at win totals around 5, 6, 7, just don't know. Some of these transfers may come in and these teams may pop. Look at Indiana last year. But we're going to do our prep. We're going to prepare. We're going to be ready to go come week 0 kickoff. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at the Big Ten here. So taking it from the top, the Ohio State Buckeyes sit at plus 200. Numbers vary here. I see there might be a plus 210 out there still sitting at FanDuel. These numbers have moved quite a bit. You got Penn State at plus 250, Oregon at plus 275, round out the top 3. So top 3 teams here, pretty closely packed in together. These are the big 3 of the Big Ten. Then you got Michigan on the outside looking in at plus 850. Then from there, it jumps all the way up to Illinois at plus 3,000. You got Indiana right behind them at plus 3,500. Then you got Nebraska, 3,500, USC, Iowa, go all the way down to Washington, Minnesota, and then the bottom half of the league, all the way down to poor Purdue in Northwestern actually as well at plus 50,000 to win this conference. So very top heavy league, and rightfully so. You have the reigning champs. You have Penn State, a Final Four team from last year, who, in my opinion, is the most experienced, deep veteran roster, not only in the Big Ten, but in the country. Oregon reloaded like they usually do. Michigan's a wild card to me. They're a wild card team, and it's all going to come down to a true freshman five-star recruit, Bryce Underwood, number 1 overall recruit in the 2025 class. And this is a bottom 10 Michigan offense in the country last year. So safe to say they're going to improve. Are they going to be competing for a championship in Underwood's first season? I don't know. That's not typical, but Michigan's going to be a tough team to beat. They'll be loaded in the trenches on the offensive line, defensive line. Defense will be great again this year, so they're going to win quite a few ball games. Outside of that, Illinois returns a lot of folks. Indiana as well. Nebraska, USC, Iowa, that tier, they could sneak up there into the top 5. That middle tier, the Big Ten, is pretty interesting to me. But let's break down these teams and kind of see where they sit and what we think so far, how this league's going to play out. So obviously, the Buckeyes at plus 200. Like I said, the range is a bit from plus 200. There's some 180s up to 210s. And to me, I mean, this is pricey. This is way too pricey. I think based on my numbers, I have their chance of winning the Big Ten at about 29.8%, which odds are about 235. So, even at 210, not really any value there. And of course, they're going to be overpriced. They're the reigning champions. favorites to win this conference this year. You know, Ryan Day comes back, depending on who you ask, kind of on the hot seat last year after another loss to Michigan, but just dominated through the playoff. In the first 12-team playoff, had to win 4 games to win the championship, crushed Tennessee, completely crushed Oregon in a revenge spot. Great game against Texas, and pretty much dominated the entire Notre Dame game. They let them back in towards the end, but the game really wasn't close. And the Buckeyes are going to do what the Buckeyes are going to do. They're going to reload. They lost 14 players to an NFL draft last year, but they have the best player on the offensive side of the ball in the country in Jeremiah Smith, and they have the best player on the defensive side of the ball in Caleb Downs. Offense will be elite once again. They had to replace a few offensive linemen. Obviously, they replaced Will Howard with former 5-star Julian Sayin. And really, Sayin, all he has to do this year is he's got to manage his offense. He's got to sling it around, find the open guys. They have a loaded running back room again. And on defense, they bring in Matt Patricia after Jim Knowles left for Penn State. And I mean, this was the number 1 scoring defense in the country. The defense was dominant, absolutely dominant last year. Are they going to be that good? Probably not. But I think they are going to be probably better on offense to make up for it. And this defense is still going to be really damn good. And say what you want about Matt Patricia, but this guy knows how to coach up a defense. He has NFL talent all over the field. So I'm not worried here. Not worried about the Buckeyes falling back or taking a step back. No championship hangover coming this year. They're going to be right in the thick of things to the very end. Looking at their schedule, though, not the most difficult schedule, but, you know, there's some spots here that are of concern. Obviously, the big showdown, week 1, have a very hard time believing Texas and Arch Manning. This is Arch Manning's first full season as starter. He started a few games last year, but this will be his first start on the road, and he has to go into Columbus, into the shoe against the defending champions. This is a tough spot. This is a big noon game, I believe, which is unfortunate. Would love to watch this game at night in primetime, but I have a hard time thinking that the Arch is going to come in here and win this game. If he does, good for him. Texas is the front runner to win a championship. If he wins this game, then Texas is going to be off and rolling. And the hype is granted. Heisman contender, the whole deal. But that's going to be an outstanding game to start off the season. Then you got you got Grambling, got Ohio, little local MAC rival, got a bye week. Got west to Washington, which traveling up to the Northwest is not going to be easy. They should be fairly large favorites in that game, but that's one to watch out for. Not going to be an easy road trip. Minnesota at home should take care of business. Illinois also, it's going to be a very, very feisty team at Illinois. Tough spot, back-to-back. Then go to Wisconsin. Not too worried about Wisconsin, but that's a tough road trip, especially playing those 2 teams back-to-back. Get Penn State at home off the bye week. Purdue at Purdue. UCLA, Rutgers at home, and then the game at Michigan in the revenge spot. Can they get it done this year? Man, I don't know. After what's happened the past 4 years, it's hard for me to be confident in the Buckeyes to go into Michigan and win a game. They can't even win a game at the shoe lately, so we'll see. But regardless, once again, I don't think that game's going to be a decider on whether or not they get into the playoff. I think maybe at worst they lose 2 games. Maybe Texas knocks them off. Maybe they lose one of these tough road spots. Maybe Penn State comes in and gets them. But I think this is at worst 10-2 team. But Texas, Penn State, and then at Michigan. So 3 tough games. I think they win 2 out of 3 of those. And then, there are some, like I said, there's some tough road spots they could slip up on, especially with the first-year starting quarterback in Julian Sayin. Buckeyes win total sitting at 10.5. Depending on where you look, it is juiced to the under -130-ish, which makes sense. I have them at 10.3 wins, but definitely stay away in the win total here for the Buckeyes. Next up, Penn State. This is a fun team to talk about. We all know, and we've talked about Penn State before in the previous episode when we were outlining the top contenders for the national title this year. Penn State's still right up there. I believe they are the fourth favorite, almost third. They're right up there with Georgia in the plus 700 somewhere. Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Penn State are the top four there. But it's hard to look at this Penn State roster and think anything other than it's got to be national championship or bust here, right? I mean, after the run they had last year, they had Notre Dame on the ropes. Very, very close to being in that national championship game in a rematch against Ohio State, which they played very tough at home last year. Did get routed by Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Came back and won 2 playoff games before going down to Notre Dame. But this team's deep. It's a veteran deep roster. They fit the mold. If you look at the past couple national championships, especially the past couple Big Ten championships with Michigan and Ohio State, Penn State is a carbon copy of those two teams, I think. They're loaded on the defensive side of the ball. They bring in Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator out of Ohio State last year, who won the national championship and led that number 1 ranked defense, which, you know, this team already had a great defense. So maybe he adds a little bit with his scheme and his knowledge of Ohio State in this Big Ten conference. Maybe that's the edge, but I don't think it hurts to bring in a guy like Jim Knowles to coach up this defense. But in the offensive side of the ball, you have Drew Aller coming back, senior quarterback. You have the top running back duo in the entire country, and Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, behind probably a top 5, top 3 offensive line as well. Receiving core, once again, will be a question, but they are improved. And I mean, to be honest, it's really hard to be any worse than this receiving core was last year. The X factor is they do lose Tyler Warren, who's the heart and soul of that offense, but they have the talent to make up for it. And once again, I mean, whether or not they win the Big Ten, it's very likely that they do. I don't see any value in the number at plus 250 right now, but you know, if I had to pick a team to win this conference, it's got to be Penn State. And look at their schedule too. The non-con's pretty much a cakewalk. You got Nevada, FIU, Villanova at home before a bye. Then you get Oregon at home. There's always that tricky West Coast trip. I know they almost slipped up at USC last year. Now they have UCLA out in Los Angeles. Get Northwestern at home. At Iowa is going to be tricky. That's going to be a fun game. Iowa is one of those teams. They're going to be much better than last year. And anytime a top-ranked team goes to Iowa, that's never going to be an easy game. They do get a bye before they travel to Ohio State, so they get a little bit of a break there between Iowa, at Ohio State, Indiana at home. So that's quite the little gauntlet they got there. Iowa, Ohio State, Indiana, at Michigan State, get Nebraska at home, which that team will be feisty, and then Rutgers on the road. So, I mean, it's hard to envision this team not winning 10 games, probably 11 games. Let's say they slip up either at Iowa or Ohio State. I think they take care of business with Oregon at home. But one of these 2 road games, I think, could be a little bit tricky for them. Indiana at home, too. But I think at worst, they probably slip up, lose one of those 2 games, and go 11-2, which puts them right in obviously the playoff, but then puts them right in the Big Ten championship game. So this is a big year for Penn State. Their win total sits at 10.5. Also juiced heavily to the under, which same thing. I have them at right on 10.3 wins. And no value on the under right now. But then we have Oregon, who is still hanging in there, plus 275. Their number varies a little bit too. I do see a plus 375 out there. And at plus 375, there is some value on Oregon, but I have them at about 23% chance to win the conference at plus 328 should be the true odds. So if you can find anything above plus 330, plus 350, plus 375, somewhere in that range, that's a good number on Oregon. But a major disappointment last year. They were number 1 going into the college football playoff, won the Big Ten championship in their first season in the Big Ten. They lost quite a bit, but they also reloaded via the portal, and they brought in quite a bit. Last year, they brought in former 5-star UCLA quarterback Dante Moore, so he'll take over to lead this offense. This was the top-ranked offense in the Big Ten last year. And this is Dan Lanning's 4th season. And he's won 10 plus games in each one of these seasons. And right now their win total sits at a 10.5. Also juiced down the under. I have them at 10.2 wins. So yeah, based on these prices, there's not really any value there. The Ducks are one of these teams it's difficult to predict. I mean, I don't think they're going to be as elite in the regular season as they were last year, to be honest. But it's all going to come down to Dante Moore. Can he produce like Dylan Gabriel did last year in this offense? You know, this Daniel Lanning defense is going to be excellent once again. They returned 8 starters on offense, 6 on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive line is going to be really good once again. They have the skill group. And the schedule is not too bad. They do have that road game at Penn State, game 5. And they also have to go to Iowa. Outside of that, they don't play Ohio State. They don't play Michigan. They don't play Illinois. They do get Indiana at home. So another team, not surprising me. I think the floor here with them as well, barring any surprises or, you know, if Dante Moore does not live up to the hype, I could see them winning 10 games, possibly slipping up at one of these road games here, either Penn State or at Iowa. They do get USC at home, Minnesota at home, Wisconsin, Indiana. Non-con is Montana State and Oklahoma State at home. Go to Northwestern, and then the rival Oregon State at home as well. So the old Civil War game. Yeah, I mean, once again, their win total 10.5 is spot on. They're a 10-11 win team. And like I said, the big three, this top tier of Big Ten teams, absolutely elite. Any one of these 3 teams could win this conference. Honestly, I don't think the Ducks have the team this year to repeat and knock off Ohio State or Penn State. So I think it comes down to one of those 2. And unless one of these other second tier 2 contenders, and really there's only one tier 2 contender, and that's Michigan. Everybody else is plus 3,000 or below. But talking about Michigan's interesting. This is a team that we know they're built in the trenches. They're built with excellent defense. They play your classic hard-nosed Big Ten Midwest style football. Had a down year last year and one of the worst offenses you'll ever see. But, you know, they did win the big game. Started off slow. I believe they were, 3-3 to start the year. Came back down the stretch and was able to finish with 7 wins in the regular season and then knocked off Alabama in the bowl game. So a little bit of momentum ended last year in Sherman Moore's first year. And they bring in Bryce Underwood. Is a true freshman, though. So it remains to be seen. Obviously, he's going to improve this offense. It wouldn't take much to improve this offense from last year. But they have the O-line. They have the running game. And if he performs as advertised, this Michigan team is going to be a tough team to beat once again this year. They're sitting at plus 850 to win the Big Ten. I see some higher numbers out there too. Plus 900, plus 1,000. So there's some decent numbers right now in Michigan. I have them about 9% chance to win the Big Ten. About 990 true odds. So if you can find something that's a plus 1,000 or above, it's a good bet. There's value there. Expect this team to bounce back from last season. And looking at their schedule, they don't have a tough schedule at all. I mean, New Mexico week 1, they do go to Oklahoma in week 2, which I think is a loss. I don't think they go into Norman with a much improved Sooners team and win that game. They get Central at home, then they go to Nebraska. Also, that's a tough beginning of the year. I could definitely see them starting out the season 2-2 with a true freshman quarterback going into 2 places that are very difficult to win games. They get the bye week. They get Wisconsin at home. That should be a win. Traveling out to USC. That's not going to be an easy one. Washington at home. They go to Michigan State. In-state rivalry game. Purdue at home, bye week, at Northwestern, at Maryland, and then the big game against Ohio State. So their win total sitting at 8.5. Got 8.5 right now. It is juiced up minus 140-ish to the over. I have them at 9.1 wins this year. So there is a little bit of value, depending on what price you can find there. I think there's some value on Michigan at 9 wins. This is probably a stay away for me just because of the uncertainty at quarterback. This is not a team I want to lock money up on. I can build a case for the 8.5, the over 8.5. I think there were some 9.5s at one point, and this thing got pushed down, rightfully so. Probably would have bounced on the 9.5. I think 9 is the right number here. I see a path to 9 wins. Get Ohio State end of the year at home. So full season with Bryce Underwood and new OC Chip Lindsey. Michigan's the wild card in this conference. You got Illinois at plus 3,000, 10-win team from last year. Brett Bielema brings back a very experienced team. We're talking 19 starters returning in this team, including quarterback Luke Altmaier. Enters his senior season, 10 total starters returning just on the offensive side of the ball alone. We know this offensive line under Brett Bielema is going to be one of the best in the country. They have good, not great skill players, but you have to think this offense is going to improve, take a step forward. And then as far as their schedule goes, this schedule lines up very nice for Illinois to get back to another 9, possibly 10-win season. They start off with Western Illinois, got to go to Duke, which that's going to be a tough spot. We'll have to see what that line's going to be, but going out to Durham to face Manny Diaz in this Duke team this year, that's not going to be an easy win. Yeah, Western Michigan, they have to go to Indiana, which is another tough spot. But outside of that, I mean, they do play Ohio State. They get Ohio State at home. They don't play Penn State, Oregon, or Michigan. So they play one of the top 4 teams in this conference, Ohio State, and they play them at home. So, I mean, barring any unforeseen slip-ups, I mean, going to Washington will be tough. Rutgers at home, Maryland at home, Northwestern at home, at Wisconsin could be interesting. But, I mean, I think there's a clear path to 10 wins for this team. Look at the schedule. I mean, I think they lose to Ohio State. Either the Indiana or Duke road games are probably the 2 toughest spots for this team. So let's say they split those and lose to Ohio State. That's 10 wins. They beat everyone else that they should beat. And their win total is only 7.5. I think there's 7.5, 8.5. I do have them at 7.8 wins, close to 8 wins. So depending on what number you can find, I mean, it's very heavily juiced to the over. So the price is not looking good at the 7.5. But this is one where, we have almost 2 months before the season starts. Illinois is a team I may have to make some adjustments on because I'm thinking this my early projections are a little low. Because 7.5 seems like a no-brainer to me at any price, but definitely one that we'll want to dive a little further into. And then Indiana. So looking through this conference, I always like to pick. We look at the top 5, then we always like to throw in a dark horse contender, somebody outside the top 5 that could sneak in and possibly win the conference. And really, there's a few teams that I was eyeing up to put in here. And I think there's a tier of teams behind the top 5. And that tier includes Indiana, Nebraska, USC, and Iowa as teams who I don't think can win this conference. But if things fall the right way for them, I think there's a path to at least getting into the title game. Sneaky shot at a 9-10 win season in a playoff berth. But we had to go with Indiana as our dark horse. I mean, how do you bet against Curt Cignetti? Mr. I win, Google me Curt Cignetti. He says that, and he shows up in Indiana and leads this team to the playoffs in his first season. Unbelievable. And we know Cignetti goes to the portal. He hits the portal hard. Did it last year. They lost some players, but he went right back to the portal, brought in a quarterback, Fernando Mendoza from Cal. The year prior, went to the MAC and brought in Curtis Rourke from Ohio. So I trust Cignetti. I think he's a coach that knows what he's doing when it comes to finding players that fit his team and his system and bringing them in and winning games. That's what he's going to do again this year. He's going to win some games. This offense last year was the number 2 scoring offense in the entire country, 41 points per game. So that's going to be tough to repeat. But looking at the schedule, I mean, their win totals at 8.5. Depending on where you look, anywhere from there are some plus money in the 8.5 out there. It's juice up to the under actually, depending on where you look. So yeah, I mean, I have them at 8 wins. I think depending on what number you get, I think there's value to the under here. That makes me nervous. Like I said, I prefer not to bet against Curt Cignetti. Did it a few times last year and got burnt. So Indiana's a stay away from me on the win total side of things. They're plus 3,500 to win this conference. I think they might be able to find a plus 4,000 out there, which I have them more of about almost 2% chance to win the conference. Pretty close, but I don't think there's value on the price. But looking at their schedule, I mean, it's definitely maybe slightly more difficult than last year. Look at these road games, these conference road games that they have. You have at Iowa, at Oregon, and at Penn State all on this schedule. Whew. Those are 3 tough wins. Those will be 3 tough wins. I think they probably lose all 3 of those, if not at least 2 out of 3 of those. They do get Illinois at home. Their non-con is cake once again, Old Dominion, Kennesaw, and Indiana State. So, I mean, let's say they split, or let's say they lose 2 out of 3, or even all 3 of those tough conference road games, and they win all the rest of the games that they should win. That's still 9 wins. That puts them over the total. That's still, based on the price, still a little too close for me. Like I said, probably a stay away from this Indiana team. But outside of that, I mean, I think that wraps up most of the conference. There's some other teams on the outside looking in here, like I said, that I wanted to talk about that I didn't. USC, they're going to be a fun team once again. Lincoln Riley. It's hard to imagine that Lincoln Riley's not eventually one of these years going to get this team back to where they should be. This is his 4th season. Won 11 games in 22, 8 in 23, 7 last year. So has gotten progressively worse over the past 3 years. But their schedule is pretty difficult. I'm not going to lie. So the non-con's solid. They have some tricky traveling east for some Big Ten games, Purdue and Illinois. Illinois is going to be a very tough game. They do get Michigan at home. They do have to go to Notre Dame, go to Nebraska, go to Oregon, and they also got to play Iowa. So, and then the rivalry game against UCLA at the end of the year. USC's win total sitting at 7.5. It is juiced up to the over. I'm at 7.8. Based on the price, I'm not seeing enough value to get anything down on USC at the 7.5 wins. I think that's about right. But the offense is going to be really good. They bring back nine starters, including their quarterback, Jaden Mayava. Very good skill group. Let's see if their defense can be up to the task. And they can pull a couple, we'll need a couple upsets, be in contention, but they're on the outside looking in. If things fall correctly for USC, I could see them being a team to watch end of the year, going into Oregon in November and then finishing up at UCLA. Iowa's a team I like. They're way down at plus 5,000 to win this conference, but they go to the transfer portal. They bring in quarterback Mark Gronowski, senior quarterback, came in from South Dakota State, won some national titles at the FCS level. Probably one of the best quarterbacks that Iowa's had in a very long time. This defense is going to be really good. Special teams is going to be good. They're well coached. Their win total sits at 7.5. Have them just slightly under 7. And depending on what number you can get, it might be a little bit of value on the under there, but it's an 8-5 team last year, and schedule's fairly tough. Got an early one at Iowa State in a rivalry game. They do play Indiana at home. They got Penn State at home, Oregon at home. I think there's definitely some upsets lying in one of those 3 games. And the road schedule, outside of that early Iowa State game, they got Nebraska, they got to go to USC. All winnable games. Iowa's definitely a team to keep an eye on. There is, based on the schedule, they do have those 3 tough games. 2 of the top contenders in Oregon, Penn State. They don't play Michigan or Ohio State. They don't play Illinois. They do get Indiana at home. So if they steal one of those 2, and then win the rest of the games that they should be able to win. Nebraska, end of the year, very last game of the year will be tough too, but there's a clear path to 9 wins for this Iowa team. Maybe 10, maybe sneaking into the Big Ten championship game. And then Nebraska, last team we'll talk about here as one of these, and this middle tier of teams who could surprise and could make a run at a title game appearance. Dylan Raiola comes back for his sophomore season. This is Matt Rule's 3rd year. And I know there's a lot of talk about the success Matt Rule's had and everywhere he's been in his 3rd season at a job, winning double-digit games in his 3rd season at each position he's been in. And this team returns 15 starters, 10 on the offensive side of the ball. Dylan Raiola, we mentioned. Schedule lines up very nice. This is a solid schedule. They got Cincinnati at home and a neutral in Kansas City to open the year. Then we see Akron, Houston, Christian. They get Michigan at home, Michigan State at home. The road games, Maryland, Minnesota, UCLA. And then they play at Penn State. It's a game that will be very tough to win. Then they got Iowa at home. So there's a path to 10 wins for Nebraska. And I have them at 7.6 wins. The juice in the over, I think you can get it around minus 105. I think there's value on the over in Nebraska 7.5, and this is one that I've been eyeing up. I haven't bet any of these win totals in the Big Ten just yet, but Nebraska is one that's on my radar to fire on, depending on the price I could find. Plus 4,000 to win the conference as well. I don't see any value there. I have them closer to 1.7%, which is close. This is well above plus 5,000 should be the right number. So no value on the conference odds, man. And then outside of that, I mean, the rest of the Big Ten, there's some other middle tier teams that we could include. You might want to look at a Washington sitting at 7.5 wins, maybe a Minnesota sitting at 7.5 wins. And then you have the bottom quarter of the league: Michigan State, UCLA, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Maryland, all sitting at teams who, if they hit 6 wins and go to a bowl game, probably going to be a successful season. And then the bottom, Northwestern and Purdue, which Purdue's win total, there's a 2.5. There's still 2.5s out there on Purdue. Yeah, you can get some. It's very expensive. There's 3.5s that are plus 170. I have them as a 3-win team this year, but just based on the price, I mean, it's tough to justify a minus 190 on this Purdue team. But as bad as they were last year, I mean, I don't see how this team doesn't win 3 games, and I think the market's telling you that, which is why it's so expensive. I mean, look at the Purdue schedule. They have the one of the most difficult schedules in the country too. Ball State, Southern Illinois. Can they win the first game of the year in the MAC? Imagine they'll beat Southern Illinois. Got USC at home, game they probably lose. They got to go to Notre Dame, another game they'll probably lose. Bye week, Illinois, Minnesota, at Minnesota, probably not. At Northwestern, possibly. Rutgers at home, maybe. At Michigan. Yeah, looking at the schedule, it's 2.5 or stay away here. I think they probably win the first 2 games of the season, and then can they sneak out one Big Ten win? They went 0-9 in conference last year. Had a couple close games. Took Illinois to overtime, multiple overtimes. Lost by 1. So, and then Northwestern as well. This is one that's a little cheaper. I have them at 3.8. There are some 4s out there. Minus 130 looks like the best price. I think that might be a little too expensive for a 3.5. I'm at 3.8 wins, but yeah, a little expensive on Northwestern. I think they're a team that can win 4 games. Another tough schedule. They go Tulane to open the year, Western Illinois, Oregon. And they got ULM at home, UCLA at home, winnable games. Purdue's a winnable game. So I think there's a path to 4 wins for Northwestern. And then another team I'm looking at that the win total is looking rather nice. This is Maryland. So out of the entire conference, the 2 totals that I'd like, well, there's 3 actually that are popping out. Michigan State under 5.5. If you can get it at plus money. We got a Maryland over. And this one minus 130. It's not too bad. But Maryland doesn't have, out of all these teams, they don't have as nearly a difficult schedule. FAU, Northern Illinois, Towson. Wisconsin is a winnable game. Washington's, they're traveling west to east. That's a winnable game. UCLA be tough. Indiana at home, Michigan at home, Rutgers, that's a win. Michigan State could be a win. So yeah, there's definitely 5 wins here for Maryland, if you can find a good number on that. So 4-win Terps team last year. Team that started out 4-3, lost their last 5 in a row. There we go. So that wraps it up, folks. We, like I said, we got one more conference, Power 4 conference next week in the SEC. Looking forward to breaking that down. Then we'll dive into the group of 5 contenders, along with independents, handful of independents that are out there, Notre Dame being one of them that we'll want to talk about. And yeah, back into the NFL for a few weeks, and we'll wrap things up leading right into week 0 on August 23rd. So once again, thanks for coming to hang out. A few call outs here. Feel free, if you enjoy the pod, if you want to help us out, give us a rating, give us some feedback. You can follow us along on the socials. We do post all of our picks and bets and rationale behind bets on Action Network. So you can check us out, NT Sports 22 there, NT Sports 22 on Instagram and X. We have the TikTok, NT Sports. You can look that up. YouTube Shorts as well. Post a lot of the podcast content. And then we do have the ebook as well, if you'd like to pick that up. So if you're a newer sports bettor, or if you're just a sports bettor who maybe hasn't won a lot in the past and you want to sharpen up a little bit and learn everything from bankroll management to how to spot value to some pitfalls that that a lot of bettors fall into that prevents you from being profitable and actually winning over the long term. Check it out. Very easy read. Might take you 15, 20 minutes to read through, but might learn a few things. It might help you out coming up on football season. So check that out, and feel free to shoot me over some feedback or questions that you do have. I'm always happy to interact and hang out with the crew. So let me know how I can help. With that being said, let's come back next week, same time, same place. Episode should be dropping on Wednesday with the SEC preview. But until then, thanks for stopping by. Cheers, everybody.